So here's Gogar and Edinburgh Airport, exactly what you were saying. And
Hmm.
not really a whole lot in Gogar at all. There's like a little burn that flows through it. There's a little church. There's a wee village there. There's been talk about developing a housing estate in the area for years, or like a business park, which they've kind of done. Edinburgh Park. It's close to there.
No,
It's
they've got all new houses on that road now. There's a
have they?
whole
All
new
right.
development. Oh, I can't remember what it's called, but when you're going along the Glasgow Road now, there's just
Yeah.
a massive. They built brand new house and right off it. I'd hate to live there because you've got the airport right opposite you, and the
Mhm.
runways and all that right opposite you, and you've got that road, and you've got the roads right there as well, and you've got the
Right.
bank, all the traffic that comes from that big bank. That big bank on the
RBS
Go-Kart.
headquarters. Yeah.
Aye, it's like it holds like 5,000 people or something. About 5,000 people work there. So you
Mhm.
imagine all the cars coming at the place again in rush hour. Because that's the road I come along. Like most nights, I'll be coming along that, unless there's roadwork somewhere. Or definitely every morning, I drive along the Gogar towards Edinburgh.
It's definitely been. I certainly knew it was very commercially developed with the RBS headquarters being built in the last few years or so. And then you got the little kind of church there, and you got the little barn. But Gogar
What's
Village
the
itself
church?
is
What's the
fairly
church?
unremarkable. It's just Gogar Church. That's just what comes up when you Google Gogar. There's not a whole lot comes up. So whatever I was able to find, I just put into the slide essentially.
Like a
Yeah,
Gogar church.
yeah. But the main thing about Gogar, the whole Gogar area, is the airport. Edinburgh Airport. There's not really a whole lot else apart from the commercial development, the RBS headquarters, and what you're saying about the new housing. With Giles right there as well, the Giles shopping centre, and there's the business parks and all that off to the side.
The guy was closer to Edinburgh when you say after
Aye.
the airport road.
It's kind of along the same road. It's just after the Gogar area kind of
Aye.
thing. It's not far away. Um, So yeah, the Valley of Hinnom. Apologies for the graphic on the right. I couldn't really get anything better. If you zoom it in, you can kind of get what he's getting at. You got Christorfen Hill, then you got Gogar Burn. Again, you have to kind of zoom in a bit, and then in the distance you've got Falkirk and Cameron, and yeah, Camelon, I should say. Excuse me. And Stirling's way off in the distance. I couldn't really get any better image to go with this slide. I know it's not great, but if you zoom in, you can kind of make it out. So this is the Valley of Hinnom. So the original Hinnom itself requires mention. The Valley of Hinnom leads today as long ago from Edinburgh to Stirling. So Stirling's way off in the distance. You can barely make it out, but it is there. And there's Christorfen Hill right in the foreground. So it passes by Falkirk.
That's the royal route. That's the royal. That's the road that I've got right. It runs right outside my. It goes right to Linlithgow and
Yeah.
it was known as the royal route because you had Falkirk, Stirling. It's all the stops where the king would stop off on that route from Linlithgow to Edinburgh, but they had
Mm,
Stirling and Falkirk as well on that same route. It's like, it was one back in the old times. It was just one road,
interesting. I didn't know that before.
and it's known as the royal route. But I'm sure it's
Mm.
just out there as well. Fucking
Just in that general kind of vicinity where, yeah.
aye.
Okay, so it passes by Falkirk. The Antonine Itter terms the fifth fort along the Antonine Wall from the east of the Clyde as Hunam, differing from Hinnom only in the vowel pronunciation. By the way, if I'd been able to find that, that would be in this slide instead of what you've got. I can't find it, but anyway. So Ravenous calls it Ono. Gildas mentions it in connection with also Camelon, the Camelodonum of the Romans. In other words, it was Falkirk, a part of the territory of the Atacotai of Dumbarton, earlier Athenians. And some of the other Beaumont presentations I'm working on at the moment mention this. The whole thing with Falkirk and like the Silurian Wars with Rome, I think, go into it. If it's not already been mentioned in some of them. Also, if you go to Calendar House, which is just outside of the town of Falkirk, there's a museum in there all about the Antonine Wall and the Romans and all that. Well worth checking out, by the way. A very, very good museum. Really fills in the blanks in a lot of ways.
Well, it sounds like this Hinnom, the Valley of Hinnom leads.
Mhm.
So it sounds like the royal route to me because of the
Yeah,
Edinburgh, Stirling, and Falkirk.
yeah. Well,
Um,
definitely. I mean, Linlithgow was very, very prominent at one time. I do know
mhm.
that.
But
Dunfermline was the old capital.
well, is there not a big valley? Is there not a valley down there? Can we What river is it that goes through Linlithgow? Is it the Avon? Is it Avon?
The Avon Gorge. Is that what you're referring to?
Because they've got a massive, they've got like a massive bridge or something. Because it's like a huge valley or something somewhere. But that's in the Linlithgow sort of area.
Hang on. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Do you know where the Battle of Linlithgow was as well? Where the Linlithgow Bridge was? I'm sure that's a huge valley. It goes down, it goes actually down the way, and that's why they've got Linlithgow Bridge. That could be a valley. Because it's on that route as well. It's on the royal route between Edinburgh, Falkirk, Stirling.
I'm trying to look up that road, exactly what you're talking about, the Avon Gorge. Hang on, I'll use the screen share thing because that didn't occur to me when I was putting this together.
And Linlithgow Bridge, where that is, because that's an old ancient bridge as well, where there was a valley.
Yeah. If you're talking about the road, I know exactly what you mean.
Oh, look
The
at
trouble is,
Avon Gorge. Look at the Wikipedia Avon Gorge. That's a huge valley. Look at that. Look at the Avon Gorge picture. That second one. Look at that. Look at that. How that is a proper valley. That.
Yeah, but the trouble is when you type in Avon Gorge, it immediately goes to the one in England, unless you're specific.
Oh, is that one in England?
Yeah, that one there and that one there. That's in England.
Right.
When you talk about the Avon Gorge Road,
but even
I know exactly what you mean, but I can't get an image of it.
Anyway, try and get an image of the Linlithgow Bridge, because the valley down there.
Yep.
That is a big sort of gorge, because there's a big bridge there as well. There's a big battle there. I'm sure is that showing you the battle? Is that showing you the two sides of the battle? There's a big. I'm sure. Is that the bridge there? It's hard to get a decent look at. You're probably better with like Google Earth or something to look at this kind of stuff. Just get a 360 degree of the.
Okay, we'll try that. Google.
No, we don't have to do it right now. When we can do it another time, we can continue with the slides. Because it's midnight now, man, and I've got work in the morning. But we will go back to that. We'll try and find a valley. It's between Edinburgh and Stirling. Because that's meant to be the Valley of Hinnom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's plenty of valleys. We could try and investigate.
Oh, hang on, I need to bring this back in. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I just couldn't get a good image of it for whatever reason, but anyway. So Joppa, unless there was anything else, was there?
Right. Nah. I'll probably go back and I didn't really watch these back over because I can't even remember everything that we spoke about, and so I didn't really watch these videos back over again when they come out.
Okay.
But I kind of remember what we're talking about though. Anyway, right, Joppa, the port of Jerusalem. Is it my turn?
You can go if you want.
Is it your turn? On you go, mate. If it's you.
Okay. All right. So now we turn to Joppa, the port of Jerusalem, which, according to Josephus, quote, was not naturally a haven, for it ends in a rough and straight shore. There were dangerous rocks, he continues, quote, and the north wind beat upon the shore and dashed mighty waves against the rocks, and when this, quote, black north wind blew a gale, it dashed ships against one another and carried some of them to the sea. This description applies faithfully to Joppa, now a part of Portobello, a straight, unsheltered beach, but is untrue of the Joppa, now called Jaffa, in the Mediterranean. The latter is situated by a hilly promontory, and the port, admittedly small, is protected by a ledge of rocks running north and south. It lies at no less than 31 miles from Jerusalem, but Joppa by Edinburgh is under 4 miles from the centre of the city. So again, we're falling back on the topography and the geography and the descriptions, which seems to be essentially Beaumont's main go-to when he's trying to prove a point. So yeah, and there on the right-hand side, you can see the image of Joppa, which is part of Portobello. It's even in the image down at the bottom corner there. So he's making a point that the description that's made,
I make the same point in my video I make about this, and I show you on Google Maps how far away.
Yep.
like the Joppa in the Middle East, how far away that is to the actual city centre, and we show you how close the Joppa to the Edinburgh city centre is. Like you said, 33 miles.
Yep. Well, when we go to the next slide, here's Edinburgh to Joppa, 4 miles. That's according to the Google Maps. You can see it right there. It's only an hour 30 minutes if you're walking. If you take a drive,
That's a, that's a
20
proper
minutes.
port, and that's a proper port city. If you're a city, that's a proper port, and it shouldn't be like 30 miles away to call yourself. I'm sure there's a city closer than that. Like if you're 30 miles away, I'm sure there's a city between you and the water that's closer. They can be called the port city.
Exactly. And if we look at the Jerusalem to Jaffa, like you said, 40 miles. So there you go. There's Edinburgh to Joppa, 4 miles. The proof's right there. You know, what can't speak can't lie. This is off Google Maps. There's Jerusalem to Jaffa.
Yeah.
It's almost an hour's drive away, 40 miles away, you know? So, again, the geography and the topography and the description by Josephus seems to be his fallback. And the description, this is
and in
where
ancient times, like bringing like fresh produce from Joppa to Jerusalem, like would be impossible, because how the fuck in that weather could you bring like fresh like products to the city? It just seems that, and in Edinburgh you can make the walk in an hour, from an hour and a half.
But in the Middle Eastern version, it's 16 hours.
Aye, and everything would be rotten and stinking by the time you got there. Or your fish would be spoiled.
An hour and a half in Beaumont's version, 16 hours in the mainstream version. So there you go.
I'd say the Joppa in Edinburgh is a real port.
Yep, right on Portobello Beach. And also the description of it being a beach as well. It doesn't really fit with the Middle Eastern version. So on to the next one, the Fishwife's Causey, which you referenced earlier on.
I've referenced this in my videos as well.
Yep.
This place.
The Fishwife's Causey, the ancient causeway connecting the two places, is called the Fishwife's Causey, and explains as the Mediterranean Jaffa could never do owing to distance over hilly country, why Tyrian fishermen were able to sell their catch in Jerusalem on the Sabbath, an act regarded as profane by the rigid Jewish sects. It also explains why Josephus could give credence to the legend that Andromeda, the beautiful daughter of Cepheus, king of the Ethiopians or Redheads, was bound to a rock near Joppa to be eaten by a sea monster to appease the god Poseidon, and how Perseus rescued her. It is a legend entirely set in the Atlantic zone, with no affinity whatsoever with the Sea of Israel and the Mediterranean. So again, Beaumont's other go-to, mixing up classical Greek myths and legends with Abrahamic descriptions and all this sort of thing.
But the good point is the Sabbath. You know what I mean? And the point that they didn't eat fish and I mean, sorry, they didn't eat meat on a Saturday. And, is that a Friday? Saturday?
Saturday's the Sabbath, I believe, in Judaism. Yeah, Friday for Islam. Yeah. So,
but and the whole fishwife's causey, again, this route that the fishwives used to take to bring the fresh fish to the city. We still get a fish van come round to our street every Friday.
Yeah, me too.
But aye, and there's a lot of sea god stuff. Like I've done it on my channel as well. That sacrificing to the sea gods. One of them was called Shoni. He was a Celtic sea god, Shoni, Shoney, which is Sean. Shoni is Sean, and that's the Irish name for John. Then you get Saint John the Baptist, who was all about the water. You know what I mean? So this is where we were speaking earlier about the crossover between the Celtic gods with Bridget, Saint Bridget, and Saint John and Sean and Shoni, and they cross them over. They mix them up. Anyway, I'm going on a ramble again.
No, that's all right. Excellent point. St. John is associated with baptism and water, absolutely. But yeah, he's making the point, like you were saying, the Tyrian fishermen able to sell their catch in Jerusalem on the Sabbath. Well, it's 40 fucking miles away. That'd be a hell of a difficult thing to do. But if it's only 4 miles away, it'd be a hell of a lot easier. But yeah, an act regarded as profane by the religious Jewish sects. Well, when Scotland was Jewish talks about this, by the way, like the worship of sea goddesses and all this sort of thing. I was actually editing a presentation earlier on today that talks about exactly this practice up in parts of Scotland, this whole thing of, venerating some kind of sea deity and all that sort of thing. So interesting you brought that up because that was
Water was a big part in Celtic culture, and especially kind of like lakes and lochs, and can see in the sea as well. Kind of were venerated. Kind the water was venerated, just like fire.
Not least of all the Kelpies at Falkirk, where you got the Union Canal flowing through. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all that. Okay, so going to the next one. So the proud city of Jerusalem. It's your turn, I believe.
Right, the proud city of Jerusalem. A laird of the MacLean clan tried the same trick on his wife off Mull. When the Romans altered the name of Jerusalem to Aelia, a name which survived for only a short time, they omitted to change that of Joppa also, and thus left another clue to the real situation of the Jerusalem they wished to blot out of human memories. However, old names have a way of sticking, as has been seen in many instances in this work. And it's funny, the lake we were speaking about earlier in Northern Ireland, that big lake.
Yeah.
It's like Lake Noir. It's an old Celtic name, and it means like the lake of a guy. I can't remember who the Celtic. It's a guy that couldn't cap the water. It's an old ancient name. Anyway, they tried to rename it. These earls and these guys like took ownership, and they tried to call it the Lake of Shaftesbury. They tried to call it stuff like that, and the name just couldn't stick, and it just ended up being called the original name after even 1,000 years. Doesn't matter who tried to put their name on that lake, the old name just kept coming back, and people just referred it to the old name. So there's certain names that just want to go away. Again, just it doesn't matter how much you try and impose it.
Yep. The old myths don't die.
Yep. However, old names have a way of sticking, as has been seen in many instances in this work. This completes an examination of the principal sites of Jerusalem, now Edinburgh, and it is surely impossible for any honest student of the history of the Jews to come to any other conclusion than that here stood the proud city of Jerusalem, and that the Bible and classic history relating to it must confirm the conclusion advanced here. Its relation to the region has been shown in detail with all possible references to prove the accuracy of its identification, and this is absolutely certified up to the hilt in relation to the topography. No coincidence could meet such characteristic features such as the valley, now the George IV Bridge, separating the citadel from the temple, the existence of the ancient round in relation to the Tower of Antonio, and the description of Nehemiah of the tower that lieth out from the king's high house, and the characteristic half-moon battery, nor the existence of the two bodies of water, just as in Jerusalem, or of the evidence of Arthur's seat in the ancient Mount of Olives, and finally to trace the position of Golgotha, the Valley of Slaughter, exactly where it should be, in the ancient region of fuck knows where. In the ancient region of the damned. Everything fits into its true place.
Well, you can't criticize Beaumont for his confidence, that's for sure.
Oh, he's practically telling you, like, if you didn't believe this, you're a fucking idiot.
You might as well just wrote that, yeah.
And he does make some good points. He does make some good arguments. So instead of him being such a smarmy twat, you could just say, right, guys, I've gave you some now research in it and see if you can come up with anything new you can add there. But he's just trying to sort of wrap it up, saying if I've presented all the evidence, if you can't see it, you're an idiot. So just get my face.
Yeah, he's a bit of a heel, Thomas Beaumont, isn't he? He reminds me of the old WWE heels in the 1980s, like Roddy Piper or something like that, you know?
Aye.
It's kind of
Well, it's good,
provocative that way.
but the thing is, everybody liked the heels as well. Ken, like you need the heel. And like I said, that
Yeah.
with history, you can't have people monopolizing it. You need people throwing some spanners in the works, saying, "Nah, what if it's this? What if this? What about this theory? There's evidence that contradicts that." You need people. You kind of get stagnant. You need to keep reading because even if you're wrong, it ignites conversation. It gets people looking back into it again and maybe finding new things that they maybe overlooked. Or
That'll be script. Script reads me. What the hell does that even mean? What you getting at with the book script? Spit that shit out, man!
The way that he does kind of wrap it up is a bit arrogant, you know. It is a bit like, I'm clearly fucking right, obviously, but you know, just I do have to give him props a little bit to re-emphasize some of the kind of things that he specifically tried to focus on.
all right.
Like the valley is George IV Bridge. Okay, so separating from the temple, the existence of the ancient road in relation to at Tower Antoniae, which I think was the Bank of Scotland headquarters, and the description of Nehemiah of the tower that lieth out from the king's high house. Again, I would say there doesn't exist anymore because it was destroyed in the Lang Siege in 1573. You know, when he's talking about the tower that lieth out, people are going to be looking for it, but he didn't mention in the book that it was destroyed in the 16th century. It might be worth mentioning that point, Beaumont, just saying, if they're looking for this tower that lieth out and it's not fucking there, you're going to confuse people.
I think.
Oh, wait, it was destroyed in the 16th century. Oh, wait, you never mentioned that. Okay.
I think
anyway,
a good party's presentation was showing that again the ancient they might have not grown olives because he's just going by what the Vatican the whole idea that olives were grown. It could be apples, it could be any plant, but there's something being grown up on these hills, and this is what I thought was fascinating because I was never taught this at school. And this should be like signs at the bottom of our seat saying ancient terrace and up ahead where we used to grow shit. And I think it's like a historical site. Like to have this terracing, to not be taught about it and to find it and come across it in a Bowman's book or something like that, like terracing, ancient. I've been up after seat so many times I've never seen it. But when I took the drone up and I got the aerial shots of the Arthur seat, mate, I got really close to it. I've done some nice like in swinging shots, and the terracing is unbelievable, and that sets you off on a whole new investigation, like terracing, like the ancient Scots and they were agriculture on hills, and when you see some of this terracing, it's like step pyramids.
It is, the Doomby Dykes.
Eccles Mackin, there's some nice ones still preserved right on the bend of a road. It's like the road bends round these terracings, but the sun hits it, and they're huge, and you could grow stuff on them. You could see that's because the way it's stepped, it's for drainage. It's for water to can drain better and easier.
Go down because it's higher up. Yeah, the trouble with it, I mentioned the Doomby Dykes. The thing is, if you go to the Doomby Dykes these days on Holyrood Road, it's just a bunch of council flats. But
Dummy Dykes. It's called Dummy Dykes.
Yeah, I was trying to find the old paintings or drawings of it, like from the old days, where it would have been like terraced gardens, because it would have been exactly what you're describing. But I don't think it exists.
It's crazy. I blown my mind when I first went into Dummy Dykes. I thought, oh my god, a council estate with high flats in the middle of the high street, practically.
Yeah, just off of it. Yeah.
You just need to go down a little street and you're in Dummy Dykes, and the whole place is stinking of weed, full of immigrants, shithole.
Well, like I say, back in the 18th century, that was where the first school was established anywhere in the world for the education of deaf children. That was in 1760. Now it's a bunch of council flats. Go figure. There you go. That's just how it is, I suppose. So, on to the next one. Now, this is interesting. I was able to get this image. I've been frustrated so many fucking times when I've tried to get images of things I want in this presentation. Now, granted, you have criticised me for this earlier on, and you do have a valid criticism that some of the images are not exactly fantastic. I was doing the best I could with what I had, because sometimes you're very, very limited, because, when you're going into this stuff. But when I saw this, I was like, whoa, eyes are open on this one. Ilia Capitolina That was the name of the Roman city that was put up after Jerusalem was destroyed, after they just wiped it out and destroyed it completely. And that, to me, looks exactly like the upper half of the Royal Mile. All the features are there. It's an oversimplified version, but you got the castle at the top, and you got the straight road down. Granted, this is not the entire length of the Royal Mile; it's only the upper half. Then you've got the Netherbow port down at the kind of bottom part, and halfway down, I think you've got like the temple, or what used to be the temple, because the Romans would have destroyed it, Herod's temple or Solomon's temple. So you got the castle, you got the temple, and then you got the Netherbow, and it's a straight line. And you could argue that the street off to the side could possibly be like Market Street. Granted, it's no 100%, it's no totally perfect, but that looks a hell of a lot like the Upper Royal Mile to me.
Where was this? Was this taken off a floor or something? It's a mosaic.
Yeah, like a mosaic or something. Yeah, I don't know exactly where it came from, but yeah, it does look a bit like the Upper Royal Mile, doesn't it? Because that was for Edinburgh for 3/4 of its history. It was just the Upper Royal Mile. That was it. No even Canongate.
It's such an abstract depiction that I can't make an accurate sort of, because it's when you look at it, it's like an abstraction of a city.
Aye.
And but we can see the general sort of there is a main vein going through the city, and that's probably because the Romans like to do their triumphs. They called them. It was like a parade where they showed off their loots and their slaves and their fucking pictures, big pictures of stuff, and you could watch a whole video on triumphs. But there's a similar sort of theme going there, like a main vein to a fort with temples en route. But yep.
And the other thing that sticks out is all the towers, because if you remember all the way back to part 1, I believe it was, he talks about all the numerous towers surrounding the walled town of Edinburgh, the walled city. How many was there again? I can't remember the exact number, but the point is there were fucking loads of them. All these gates and towers and all this, and it was strongly fortified. And it looks like that on that image. It completely looks like it. And you got like these fortified gates coming in and all this. Granted, it's no going to win any fucking awards for art or anything like that. It's a mosaic basically, but the salient points are there. The main kind of thoroughfares that you think of, even in modern Edinburgh, are pretty much there.
Mm-hmm.
Castle at the top, gatehouse halfway down, what is now the Royal Mile, and you got this prominent building halfway down. It could be the temple, or it could be like a temple to a Roman god back then. You got Market Street, or what looks like it, going off to what is now Waverley. Maybe I'm just reading in a bit too much, but anyway, that's just the way I kind of look at it. So the Eye of Odin. Whose turn is it, by the way?
You.
Okay. So before completing this analysis, there are 2 items worth recording. In the main text, I drew attention to the later name of Edinburgh in connection with the Danes, who called it Hedon's Ale, suggesting that it related to the never-closing Eye of Odin. And Odin, I mentioned, was the same leader or teacher as Moses, as confirmed in many ways. Get to that in the future with Odin's thunder when I finally get around to that. The Scandinavian Eddas state that Odin was a Jotun by birth, and confirmatory of this, the ancient Danish Vetus Chronicon Holsatia says of him, quote, "The Jutes are Jews of the tribe of Dan, and the Jutes, Angles, and Saxons are kindred nations. Thus it is intelligible if the great city of the Jews were the Eye of Odin, or as the saying is, the apple of his eye." Another curious sidelight turns on the character of the citizens of Edinburgh, in so many ways having a resemblance to the ancient Jews, who were proud, obstinate, hardworking, courageous, but very intolerant in religious matters. And again, this is what we're saying in part 2, when Scotland was Jewish, missing the boat completely when it comes to Edinburgh. But anyway, go ahead.
Right, I was gonna. Is that St Andrew's Square?
Certainly is.
Aye. What I was going to say is, have a look at the new St Andrew's shopping centre from an aerial view. If you can find that right now, it's unbelievable. Like, that looks like an eye, it does. But wait till you see the aerial view of St James's shopping centre with the magical golden turd on top of it. But if you look directly down on it, it's an eye, mate. and it's even got eyelashes and everything, man. It's like a detailed eye. Not detailed, but it's more of an eye than that is. Can you could say that could be a lemon with a. Can this looks like an eye? The St
Hang on.
James's Shopping Centre.
I'm gonna bring that up just now.
If you can get an aerial shot of it, because it doesn't really do it justice looking any other angle.
I know. That's what I typed in. St James's Shopping Centre aerial.
Aye. Look at
Fuck's
the
that
one.
maybe?
Look at the blue eye. That
Think
one
this
there.
one.
Click that one. Look at that.
Aye.
Fucking look at that, mate. The centre in the middle. That's the eye. You can see the eyelashes going around the edge. Can that is an eye? It's even shaped like the tear duct. Can that's like a proper eye? Look at that. That's a fucking eye, mate.
And it's right next to St Andrew's Square as well.
Aye, it's aye, but it's like right. That's no obvious enough. So we need to build an obvious. Look at that, mate. The way it's shaped, the way and you can see right in the middle the golden turd. That's like the pupil. And what's mental when you're look at that.
Yeah.
That is an eye.
Mm-hmm.
Aye.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but you're right. Yep. And if there's any better images I can get of it, that's probably about as best as. We see it there on there.
And
like anything at ground level.
There's the golden turd. Aye, but just right outside the St Mary's Church, that the church I was at near St James's, you've got the foot. I think that's Osiris. Kind of Osiris was cut up into pieces, and was it Osiris? And the only thing they couldn't find was his dick.
That's right.
And his sister Isis, I think she made a golden member for him to place it. But there's pieces of Osiris scattered all about Edinburgh, man, and there's the foot outside, and there's a piece of his neck somewhere, kind of like between there's pieces of Osiris all scattered around, and if you look actually closely, next time you're near that foot statue, look at the bottom of it and round it, and it actually says something about Osiris on it as well.
What, outside of St Mary's Cathedral in your place?
And the big giant brass foot.
All right. Okay.
Have you seen it? It's been there for years.
No, I've not been to New York place for years.
Right, type in giant brass foot, St James's.
Okay, let's see if we can find it. Giant brass.
That's Osiris. There's pieces of him lying all around the place. I'm sure there was the neck part was beside the foot before, but it's not there anymore. I think it's just the foot now.
Nothing's coming up. Hang on. I'll try alternatives like St Mary's Cathedral or York Place.
Even just put giant brass foot Edinburgh, and I bet it'll come up. It's got little crickets on it and that. It's got a cricket on his foot as well.
Like I say, Google isn't really as great as you think sometimes. The only thing that came up when I typed that in, giant brass foot Edinburgh, was David Hume. For whatever reason.
Like giant brass foot statue.
Okay.
Edinburgh City Centre. Or even giant fucking foot Edinburgh City Centre.
Oh, here we go. This might be something.
It's right outside that church. It's right outside that church, and it has been for many years.
Okay.
I think they've moved parts of it around, but
is this what you're on about? This?
Aye. Yeah, look at the size of it. Look at the size of the guy, the full-grown man standing beside it.
Jeez.
That's inside that church. That's been there for years, mate.
Oh, I know exactly what that is.
They had to move it though, because when they were doing the cinema, but it's got little clues all over it. Got little inscriptions, and it's fucking weird, mate.
It's like it's in a sandal or something.
Aye.
I guess. Okay, so it was done by Eduardo Palozzi in 1991. Wow, that has been there for years. Off Leith Street. Never noticed it before. What they try to do here? Put it in a position, or?
I remember when I was a kid. Maybe I remember being a kid and seeing that thing.
Okay.
But there seems to be it's right beside the same place where the eye is, and that's like a stone throw away from the St James's Centre, the new centre that we're just looking at with the eye. I mean, you've got this foot, and there's other parts of this sculpture kicking about as well. Like I said, I think there's a piece of a neck, and there's a hand as well. There's a hand as well.
Okay.
Big giant brass hand.
Let's see if I can find that then. See what comes up, because sometimes what Google produces is the. What you might think, is this in Edinburgh? Is this what you mean? The giant hand?
No,
That's
no.
Edinburgh Park.
Is it?
Apparently. 30-foot
Ah.
bronze statue lends a hand to Edinburgh
aye.
Airport, or at Edinburgh Airport.
That's similar. It's
golden
similar
hand.
to the foot. That's similar to the foot. It's the same. I think it could be even the same artist that probably done the foot.
Is that it?
There it is. There.
Oh, hang on.
There.
There we are.
Third
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah,
Third one.
same artist, Eduardo Palozzi, off Leith Street. And there's the cathedral in the background, so even better shot.
Aye.
Okay.
See?
Interesting.
Pieces of body parts just scattered about the city around this this eye, and the eyes connects with Egypt and all that stuff as well, and the all-seeing eye, the Eye of Horus.
Very interesting. Yep.
Pretty cool, eh? Right, we'll get back to the slides, man, because we end up getting detouring into. But Bowman's using what he's kind of his contemporary evidence, so he's showing you St Andrew's Square. But if you look nowadays, it's packed even more with symbolism. Like we're just looking at the hands, the feet, and the big giant new centre that's been built that just looks like an eye with eyelashes. It was more defined as an eye than that thing there.
Yeah. I don't know when they created St Andrew's Square as it is now, but that wasn't around when Beaumont was alive. I can tell you that in the 1950s.
Nah. Even
they didn't have this blatant eye in the middle of St Andrew's Square.
Yeah.
So hereditary qualities, and this is where it ties in with when Scotland was Jewish. I know I keep harping on about that broken record, but still, is it my turn or your turn?
I think it's
your turn. Aye, on you go.
In Drysdale's work, he relates how one Gilbert Blackall wrote a book entitled From Holy Land to Strathbogie in the north of Scotland. He arrived on a ship at Leith, Edinburgh, on Easter Saturday in the year 1637 and wrote indignantly. 12 hours chat chimed as we entered Leith, and our Puritans were at the same time as half Jews, for they had forbidden all servile work to be done Saturday, at no one until the next Monday under great penalties. This severe Sabbatarianism of Edinburgh, and incidentally largely in Wales and the West, may be as ascribed to those who manage to remain in the once holy city by adopting the Mosaic type of Christianity, such as followed by the Covenanters. It indicates the tenacity of hereditary qualities. So is he trying to say that the Puritans were like the Jews?
I think that's where he's going with it. What I took from that is, why are they observing the Sabbath on the Saturday? Because that is the Jewish Sabbath. The Muslim one's on Friday, the Christian one's on Sunday, the Jewish one's on Saturday. They've forbidden all servile work. I think that just means like any kind of manual labor to be done on Saturday to no one until the next Monday under great penalties.
I never work Saturdays, man. I never work Saturdays. And my people ask me, why do you not work Saturdays? I go, because it's against my religion.
Well, there you go.
It's just an excuse. I'm not working weekends, man. It's not worth it. Like, I don't know what I'd like. My weekend is my week. Like, Saturday and Sunday are my days of the weekend, the week. Monday and Fridays given to everybody else, my boss, my family, everyone else. You know what I mean? It's like me and my boy were up there. Like I said at the weekend there, we went to the St Mary's Church and we passed Free Palestine protests. And when we were coming back out the church, they had been replaced by the Scottish Socialists tables.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That's where the Scottish Socialists like to congregate.
Aye, like in round that Wellington statue getting there.
Yeah,
is it Wellington?
I think that's
the horse.
Yeah, Duke of Wellington. I think that's on purpose because he was opposed to the parliamentary reforms, which would create what we call nowadays democracy and things like that.
Aye, outside the records building.
They couldn't have picked a better spot to make their point, if you see it from their point of view. But yeah, very interesting the way that he phrases it there. Puritans were at that time as half Jews, and then you got into the book when Scotland was Jewish, talking about everything but Edinburgh practically. I mean, Edinburgh's mentioned the last time I checked when I did like you put in the find thing. Edinburgh was referenced 41 times in when Scotland was Jewish, but there's no chapter dedicated to it, and most of these are passing references. A lot of them referring to John Knox and things like that. But Edinburgh's not focused on heavily in when Scotland was Jewish, and I think I know I've said this before, but they really missed the boat there. And especially when you read this, what is this guy saying? What was his name? Gilbert Blackall saying, what is it? We entered Leith, and our Puritans were at that time as half Jews. And you get this book coming out. But you got the statue here on the top right hand side. Well, I say this book, I mean when Scotland was Jewish. But anyway, you got the statue on the top right there. There's at least 2 statues of John Knox in Edinburgh. There's the one at the New College, and there's the one in St Giles Cathedral, because that was his church. And down at the bottom right, you've got the signing of the Covenant. Now, this is a part of Scottish history a lot of people just do not know about at all. The killing times, they were called. They lasted from 1638 to 1689, on and off. And it was essentially, this is oversimplifying it quite a bit, but essentially the idea behind the National Covenant was that the Church of Scotland was not going to be subject to Rome and was not going to be subject to London. The Church of Scotland answers only to Jesus Christ and God. That's it. And some of the people who signed the National Covenant signed it in their blood.
Yeah.
And it was very, very, they were serious about it. They were dead serious. And when you go to, I'll go to the next slide here. And this is the last one. When you go to, look on the bottom left there, when you go to the grass market, you've got that X, which when Scotland was Jewish refers to as the Tau symbol, which is very Kabbalistic, and that was where the people who fought for the National Covenant were executed, over 100 of them. On the top right,
you are dumb, Private Papa. Do you expect me to believe that you don't know left from right?
You've got the 3 names of God in Greek, Latin, and English. You've got Moses kneeling before God. I covered that somewhat last time. The Protestant Reformation led directly to the National Covenant about 100 years later, give or take a decade or two. And then you've got on the top right, you've got one of the National Covenant monuments in Greyfriars, and on the bottom right, you've got the Covenanters' graveyard, which is sealed off to the public because it's meant to be incredibly haunted. One of the first concentration camps in the world, by the way, because conditions were so dire that many people died of starvation, many people died of exposure and disease, and many of them were so dedicated to their faith, to the ideas of the National Covenant, that they would rather, starve to death than cave in. And they were very diehard about it. So he's not kidding, by the way, when he talks about the hereditary qualities, the kind of very Old Testament Mosaic type of Christianity, which John Knox was pushing with the Protestant Reformation and the Presbyterian faith. It's taken very seriously back then. The severe Sabbatarianism was taken very seriously by those who signed the National Covenant in the 17th century. That's way down the line, but when we cover this subject in detail, or when I do, but still, the National Covenant. If you go to Greyfriars in Edinburgh, go into the Greyfriars Church and turn to the left, you'll see an American flag in the corner, and that American flag flew over the White House. That's not like some pish order off Amazon. That was a legit American flag that flew over a sitting White House, because the ideas of the National Covenant led to the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and all that. It was down the line, the descendants of those who signed the National Covenant and fought in the conflict in the 17th century, the killing times. These Presbyterians, these Scots and Scots-Irish went on to found America, quite literally. Many of them were signatories of the Declaration of Independence. So the root of the Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, all that comes directly from the National Covenant. And you can go into Greyfriars and ask them about it, and they'll tell you about it. They'll tell you about the American flag in the corner, why it's there, the whole story behind that, the horrendous conditions in the Covenanter graveyard that people suffer through, really horrific conditions. Over 100 people hang for their beliefs. And again, when we get into when Scotland was Jewish, talks about the origins of the Presbyterian Scottish Church are crypto-Jewish. So very interesting. And like I say, Jed, we'll get into all that down the line. I'm still editing and preparing those presentations, but I thought that you would enjoy those ones particularly.
Most Christian sects are crypto-Jewish.
Well, many of them. I wouldn't say Roman Catholic.
They're based on the Abrahamic.
Yeah. I'd be careful about saying that Roman Catholicism is crypto-Jewish. But having said that, I do have to kind of check myself there, because I do remember editing a passage earlier on saying that Sephardic Jews sometimes managed to get into positions in the Roman Catholic Church when they converted over to Christianity. It's not a straightforward subject. It's very complex. But certainly in Scotland, there was a conflict between the Presbyterians on the one hand and Roman Catholicism on the other hand. But sorry for interrupting. What were you going to say?
No, you never really interrupted in it. I was just wrapping it up. That was a good.
Yep.
That was kind of a good 3-part presentation, I suppose.
Yep, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It's actually one of the sort of pieces of Bowman's work I like looking into deeper in the whole the British connections with the Bible and the place names, but I think he might be getting led kind of how he's going on about Mount of Olives, but he's just going by what the Bible says, and the Bible, that could be a wrong translation. It could be the Mount of Apples. I mean, that's another thing I see like with the whole Adam and Eve story. It always seems to be an apple, and people try and just change it. No, it couldn't have been an apple because it was in the Middle East, because apples are very Northern European fruits. You know what I mean? It's it must have been the Middle East because it must have been a pomegranate. Oh, it's a pomegranate, and but most depictions when you see it, it's apples, and Eve were apple. You know what I mean? So, and that's European.
Well, like I was saying earlier on, I was making this point right at the beginning. With Beaumont, with him, it's all or nothing. When you're getting into stuff in the Great Deception, to completely understand what he's saying, and in some cases to even halfway understand what he's saying, you'd have to have read everything else he's ever written. So he's kind of, depending on people to have followed every single thing that he wrote up until now to completely grasp what he's saying, especially in the earlier slides of this one. Where I'm going with that is when you read The Mysterious Comet, he goes into this whole chapter. I think there's even several chapters that make this point, that the climate in Northern Europe and in Britain was a lot more like the Mediterranean several hundred years ago. That's why he's saying like the Mount of Olives was the Mount of Olives, quite literally the Mount of Olives, because the climate was a lot warmer back then than it is now.
You can still grow olives here.
Really?
With my job, I move olive trees.
Oh, interesting.
I've moved olive trees. People have them as decoration outside their doors.
Oh, I thought it was the Mediterranean.
Nah. You can have olive trees here as long as you have a nice sunny corner, and you can grow olive trees here. That's what I was surprised. I was like, "What the hell are these?" And I'm like, "Olive trees." And I was like, "All right, olive trees." and doing the borders, I reminded me of a job doing the borders, and I went into the garden, and there was a fig tree growing. I was like, "Holy crap!" And I said to the person that owned they just got the flat, the house, the property. He says, "Holy crap! Is that a fig tree?" And he went, "Aye, that's a fig tree. Apparently, a priest planted it like 200 years ago, or 100 years ago, 150 years ago. It's like an ancient fig tree that's been." I was like, I didn't realize that the climate could. He was like, "Well, they grow kind of thrives the fig tree in Scotland." So
there you go. I don't think that was possible, but there you go.
It's possible, mate. It's possible. So
awesome.
It depends. There was like I said, they nailed agriculture to the point where they knew even build stone walls. And if you grow things against the stone wall and have it facing south, the heat from the sun, depending on what kind of stone it is, mind you, it sort of captures the energy of the sun, and it stays warm. Okay. It stays warm. So when it gets a bit cold at night, the rocks are still emitting heat. So you can grow some exotic things in Britain against these walled, because it was called walled gardens. You get these walled gardens, but look, these walls were actually being used, and some of these walls were heated, by the way, right? I went into a walled garden that actually, it was hollow in between two walls, and the heat came from the house. So the house pumped heat from the house into this round the garden,
Huh.
which is
Interesting.
crazy. Which is crazy, and which kept they could grow grapes, they could grow olives, they could grow all kinds of shit, man, against these walls in Scotland.
Amazing. Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's no far fetched to say that olives and figs and these things grapes can grow in Scotland.
All it takes is a little ingenuity, I guess.
Aye,
You know.
it does. Aye.
Yeah. So I remember you saying that you're up working in the morning, so I'll wrap it up there. Just give me like a week or two, and I'll get the when Scotland was Jewish presentations about the origins of religions in Scotland, because I think you'll really be into that. Because I know some of the subjects were covered when they're really your favourite, you know. But I think the best
Do
one.
you know what?
Really,
It's more the
Yeah.
Mars stuff.
Aye.
It's
I
not
know you
my
think
cup
that's
of
just a
tea.
load of
But
pish, basically. Aye.
I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to be rude. You know what I mean? But
I know, but it's all right.
I do prefer this kind of stuff more. You know what I
Aye.
mean? It's more preferential. But aye, I've enjoyed it, man. I've enjoyed these
Me
3
too.
parts. Right,
Cool.
man. Well, you have a good night, and I'll
You
see
too.
you in the next podcast. See you later, mate.
Absolutely. Take care, mate. Thanks very much. Cheers.